Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, let me start off by wishing you Happy Mueller Day. I know a lot of you may have to tune into the show later because you're probably glued, like I was earlier, to the press conference of Mr. Barr, Attorney General Barr, and the general was doing a good job. I listened to the first 20 or so minutes of it right up until the point that he started taking questions from the press, and I have a few thoughts on this. Of course, we will cover it in depth tomorrow, so make sure you tune in tomorrow while I give you my in-depth because to me the biggest thing about this whole thing is how the press is going to react, what the Democrats' reaction is going to be, and the president even said that he may hold his own press conference, so we'll see if all of that happens. So there'll be a lot, I'm sure, to talk more directly about this tomorrow, but right now I'm going to share with you my thoughts. First of all, the big thing that came right off the bat, and let me just say this first. I don't know if you noticed who was standing behind Attorney General Barr. Now, the bearded fella, in all honesty, I don't know who he is. I'm sure he's some executive person in the Department of Justice. But the other guy was Rod Rosenstein. I think I'm saying his name correctly. Say what, Jay? Rosenstein. See, I have problems with all these different names. Rosenstein. If your name's not Billy Bob, man, I might mispronounce it. By the way, this is Billy Bob Bass, my psychic sidekick. He keeps me straight here. He has a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. But Mr. Rosenstein, did I say his name right? All right, say it one more time for me.
Rosenstein,
okay.
Like Frankenstein.
Like Frankenstein, but like Rosenstein, okay. It's important that he be up there, and I'm being very serious about this, because keep in mind that this was the guy that was in charge of overseeing and starting the Mueller investigation from the very beginning. So here you have a guy who's been whether you like him, love him, hate him, whatever. I know he's been controversial. We won't get into all that right this minute. But he's been there from the beginning and now what should be the end, although we know it won't be. So I think it was important for General Barr to have Mr. Rosenstein, is that it? Okay, Mr. Rosenstein to be there because it kind of bookends it, so to speak, and it kind of it's very symbolic, by the way, and so I'm sure that the symbolism will escape, the impeached 45s of Maxine Waters and the shifty shifts of the world and all them that have been going batshit crazy, including old, and I can say this as one fat guy to another, old fat Jerry Nadler, that dude. I mean, the symbolism will probably escape them, but it is very important because it shows a continuity of the rule of law, and it shows that there is no shenanigans being played in this, despite what you might think based on the media reports. Because think about this, Rosenstein is not a Trumper. He never has been. And Barr isn't either, but you could certainly accuse him, I suppose, of being, since he was, quote, the hand-picked Attorney General. I love that term, by the way, hand-picked Attorney General. Like, when is a president ever like, let me have that guy right there, that guy right there, she's like way opposed to me, she hates me, he hates me, but that's my guy. Like the guy that played football a while back in that one league had the he hates me jersey. I mean, let me let you know, snowflakes, if you're listening, and I know you are because I hear from you from time to time, and you're probably melting on Mueller Day is also Snowflake Melting Day. But every single attorney general is hand-picked. I mean, the entire cabinet is hand-picked. Now, they may make some mistakes. They may make some good choices. Certainly, Trump's choices have been a mixed bag at best. But they're all hand-picked. So he's Barr's a hand-picked attorney general. A couple of things. First, right out of the gate, Barr kind of repeated what he'd already said in his letter, that there was no and is no evidence of Russian collusion with the Look
what you've done! I'm melting!
That's going to destroy you right there. Get over it. Melt away. but there's no collusion, and this is very important, between the president or any members of his organization. No collusion, no evidence. And he went on further to say later on, when he kind of repeated himself, that there was no collusion that any American colluded with the Russians on behalf of the Trump campaign. That's a pretty big statement if you think about it. But he did go on to say that there was interference by the Russians in our election, primarily hacking into the DNC and exposing and giving emails to Julian Assange. He talked about that. There was evidence for that. But hey, a couple of things out of that. First, the Russians have been doing that kind of crap for a long time. Think about this. The FBI warned, now they didn't warn Trump about collusion or whatever, but they warned both the DNC and the RNC about the potentials of hacking. The RNC took extra precautions to prevent that. The DNC, not only did they just say, whatever, but when the FBI went in to try to help and investigate them, the DNC refused to turn over access to their servers to the FBI that they love so much, right? Well, they never have, but they, according to the Trump Arrangement Center, they have. So no evidence of collusion. Then he goes on, and this is where you can expect the media and the Democrats to just go batshit crazy about the whole justice by what is it? I'm trying to think of that one term. Obstruction. Maybe I had a little obstruction in the brain there. Obstruction of justice. Well, a couple of things on that. First of all, you can't obstruct from something that didn't happen. There was no underlying crime to investigate. So the president, like firing Comey, he has every authority to do that regardless of the situation. Here's the other deal. President Trump, did he obstruct justice? You could make a case for that, and I know a lot of my listeners, hang on before you get too freaked out. You could make a case for that to a certain extent. By that, I don't mean that he went in and manipulated the situation, but President Trump, whether you love him, hate him, or whatever, he sometimes wears his emotions on his sleeve. I love him for it myself because I think it's honest, but he absolutely bitched, moaned, and whined, and complained, and condemned, and called them names, like I heard old Peach 45 Maxine Waters say last night. Man, she was unhinged on a show I saw last night. But President Trump, one thing about him, he has no way he can obstruct justice, because his obstruction, not only did he have authority to do some of the things he did, but his entire, if you want to call it obstruction, is like in the public. He's out there going, this is a damn witch hunt from the very beginning. But think about this, and General Barr, to his credit, and much more eloquently than I'm sure I will, basically defended, they'll say that, I don't think he was really trying to do it, he was just giving an explanation, that President Trump has literally been hounded since before he took office by not only the press and Democrats, but literally from agents of our federal government, our security apparatuses under President Obama, by the way, and that he's been hounded since before he took office, while he was in transition, and after he took office, and that he's faced something that, in Barr's own words, he said the president felt that his presidency was being, I don't remember the exact word, but a sense has been hindered by this investigation and by this nonsense. So the president was frustrated. I think Barr actually said that and expressed himself. Now, you can make a case that he shouldn't have done that. Maybe that's not presidential. But it's Donald Trump. It's the guy, get over it out there in California, you snowflakes. This is the guy we elected. We knew that he would fight back, and that's why we love him so much, because he doesn't just sit there and take punches without punching back. So, it gets me. And the next thing, one of the very important things that I think, and I'll be wondering if the press even covers this. You may only hear it here at JMT, which is why you need to tune in. I really think one of the most important, if not the most important thing that Barr said was that the President Trump was offered the right to look and redact or take out things that were of executive privilege. He could have used executive privilege to remove some things from the report. And Barr said that the president chose not to in the spirit of transparency. That is no small thing, because I'm going to tell you right now, every president I've ever followed in my entire lifetime invokes various forms of executive privilege, even to the extreme level, even if it's like what size shoes they wear, so to speak. And I'm being kind of facetious, but it's true. They won't hesitate to invoke executive privilege. And I guarantee you that if Hildebeest, thank God she's not, had actually, and you never will, by the way, be president, she would have redacted the whole report under executive privilege if it was on her. So the fact that the president didn't do that, I think, is a very, very big deal. Now, Barr also said something, and we'll kind of conclude on this. He talked about the redactions from the report and the various areas that would be potentially redacted. But he went on to say that there was going to be, and this is very key, you really need to understand this, because I know that the left and the members of the House like Nadler and Schiff and all, they're just going to go batshit over this. But General Barr said that there was going to be released. First of all, he said the report in its whole version redacted is going to be released to the public. And I want to say that on a kind of a side note on the web. So we'll look at that and we'll talk about it possibly tomorrow. But getting back to my point, he said that a unredacted version would be released to a bipartisan members of various branches of the government, mainly talking about the Senate and the House, and that the only part, and this is very key because they're going to go crazy over this, the only part that they would not be allowed to see, in other words, redacted, would be certain parts of grand jury testimony. And they're going to just hound that. I guarantee they're going to sue for it and everything else. Nadler's already said he's going to subpoena for the whole report. And he's going to use that excuse. But this part, I keep saying it, but it is true. This is very important. The reason why that part would be redacted is to protect, imagine this, the innocent. The people whose names have been brought up in various forms of fashion throughout this, because it has been really a witch hunt, contrary to what the left would have you believe, in this country, as long as we have that president on the board and the U.S. Constitution, even more important than any president, we are governed by the rule of law, and you are innocent until proven guilty. That is very important. You're innocent. Let me say that again. You are innocent until proven guilty. And if you unredact all of that report and you bring up people's names that were not, and this is key, were not charged with the crime, they may have been investigated, they may have given testimony, but they were not charged with a crime, it is critical that their names not be released, because think about it. In this atmosphere, no matter what they said or did, their lives would potentially be destroyed. They would be found guilty and have to prove their innocence, which is next to impossible in this day and age in this thing. So that is very, very important. So we'll wait and see how the whole thing comes out. We'll talk more about it, I assure you, tomorrow. I will read over the report if I can possibly do that over the next 24 hours, and we'll talk more directly about that as well. Now that kind of leads me, this whole witch hunt, which it is a witch hunt, this whole 2 years leads me into my word of the day. And the word of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is idiocy. And you'll see the definition I picked is short, simple, but to the point, and especially to the point we just talked about. Idiocy, extremely stupid behavior. And we're going to see a lot over the coming. Because I was watching like Morning Schmo today, by the way. I watch those kind of shows so you don't have to. And they were literally talking about that this is not the end, and they were quoting Winston Churchill, but this is the end of the beginning or something like that, you know. So they're going to keep going on and on and on. In other words, it's just getting started. So this first article I want to read to you, it has nothing to do with the Mueller report, because it's way beyond that, man. It's like a galaxy unknown. And it comes from Fox News, and my little subtitle is "To Be or Not to Be an Idiot Nation." AOC narrates video from the future in which her Green New Deal saves us for environmental catastrophe. So let me set this up for you. It's about 7 minutes long. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I'll spare you that, but check it out if you want to see what we're really up against. Ocasio-Cortez has released a video, and it looks like it's for children. We're going to talk about that more in a minute, that basically describes, and what she's doing in this is very important to understand it because it's a little confusing. She's like way in the future. So in other words, way past 12 years, the world has been saved from extinction by, of course, Ocasio-Cortez. And so she's looking back on her career in saving the planet and how we got here. And so she made this video that explains what it was like, what happened, and kind of what it's like now. And now it is nirvana and paradise, baby. So in this video released on Wednesday, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told a story from the future in which her Green New Deal transformed the American economy and rescued the United States from the dire threat of climate change. Not just the United States, but the entire planet. They're not giving her near enough credit. But I say watch this video. You'll see what we're up against. This thing is specific, and we're going to play just a short snippet here in just a moment. This thing is definitely, in my view, specifically targeted at young people. First of all, it's kind of infantile, but, far be it from me to say that, I suppose. But this is intentionally done that way because they believe, they like Ocasio-Cortez, because she literally in this video talks about that when the Green New Deal, this is what, and we won't hear this part, but she talks about how when she first got elected to Congress, and the freshman class, and how diverse they were, the most diverse ever. She got Ileana Omar and Rashida Tlaib and some others I didn't particularly recognize. All women, by the way. These little caricatures of them. And, Omar and her little nice hijab and all that kind of stuff. And she talks about how what she really was inspired by was how the children reacted to her and the rest of that group's election. Imagine that. She literally said that the children were inspired by, I'm having the children like, who the hell are you? You got the candy? Inspired, like children everywhere were just like in awe of her election. And apparently that's a theme that runs through the Democratic Party. You'll see more about that in a moment. But it's specifically targeted children because they know that any rational adult, which is probably not a progressive Democrat, but any rational adult realizes that this is idiocy and lunacy. But maybe children will be, they were taken in like Hansel and Gretel by the Wicked Witch, right? So maybe they'll be taken in by her. The freshman congressman predicted that Democrats would take both chambers of Congress and the White House by 2020, ushering in a decade of the Green New Deal that prompted the social and ecological transformation to save the planet. So I'm wondering if this actually were to happen, what she just predicted. I guess she's now the Green New Nostradamus. I mean, it's Green New Nostradamus or something. I don't know. She is. But there's a second point I want. She speaks like with her normal tone until she talks about like the how climate change wiped out her homeland of Puerto Rico. Then she gets into all this like phony accent kind of thing. What is it with Democrats, by the way, and phony accents, man? I got a few of them, man. I mean, one of them would be like, follow the yellow brick road. I mean, we're off to see the visit. But how do we get there? Follow the yellow brick road. The Green New Deal. I mean, I can do voices too, girl. But anyways, so I wonder, is this really a dream or a nightmare, or is it reality? Because if what she's predicting is reality, man, that means we lost the Trumpster. They're gonna put the Trumpster in the dumpster. We can't let that happen, by the way. We need to, those of you out there with like Deplorable Resistance and Citizens for Trump and other groups that we're watching right now, the president is doing his job. General Barr is doing his job, and I guess Ocasio-Cortez, Queen Planet, is doing her job, I suppose, whatever that is. The only question really out there is, are we going to do our job? Are we going to get off our backs, off our butts, off the couches, off our knees, get out there and make sure that her dream doesn't become our nightmare, because that's exactly what it would be. Back to the story. And I'm going to break this paragraph down because it's kind of funny. She says, this is her words in the video. She says, lots of people gave up, said we were doomed. And that was until Trump, by the way. We're not doomed anymore. Those are my words. We were doomed until Trump. She said, after blaming fossil fuel companies like Exxon for saddling the public with the cost of climate issues. In other words, these greedy ass oil companies pumping and ruining the planet, man. We got to go back to the Stone Age. That's what we got to do. But some of us, thank God she's basically saying, she doesn't mention the word God though, I don't think. But some of us remembered that as a nation, we'd been in peril before. We've been in peril before. She mentions a couple examples. She says, the Great Depression. We were in peril then. And I'm like, yeah, but capitalism led us out. And socialism, which you're proposing, going to take us back. So there's a lot of idiocy in what she says. But then she says, and great peril like World War II. She mentions that a lot of times before and after this video. She says, we know of our history how to pull together to overcome impossible odds. And I'm thinking, World War II? Didn't you just come out, Miss Ocasio-Cortez, and basically say that we should destroy the nation of Israel by pulling out all of our support for them? Didn't you just say, as recently as this week, that our support for funding Israel, our financial support, is on the table to be pulled? Didn't you join in with some of your cohorts, some of your inspirational figures? Didn't you support Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib that did wipe Israel off the map, figuratively in their office, that Omar has called Israel a terrorist state? Those types of things. Didn't you just join hands with them and defend them? So what lesson did you learn from World War II? And this gets back to my question I still can't figure out. Maybe it'll be solved come 2020. Why would any Jewish American or anybody who supports the state of Israel ever vote for these yahoos? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I can understand you don't like Trump for whatever reason. I mean, we could argue that. But how could you possibly support the people if you care about the state of Israel that are not only behind the scenes but are in your face saying death to Israel? I mean, there's no difference really between what Iran says when they go, death to America, wash the pigs of Israel out to sea. There's really no difference between that and this gal here and the like of her. They just do it more politely. That's all. But the result would be just the same. So what did she learn from World War II? The fact that we could mobilize and do anything possible? That is a very worthy thing. But did she also realize that the Jewish people that the state of Israel was created because the Jewish people were nearly annihilated? I mean, so I don't know, man. It just pisses me off. I got to say. The only thing I'll say that I agree with her on, because she talks about this history that a NASA scientist, she gives the history of global warming movement, by the way. And I agree with her. We are melting. The planet is melting. There is no question about that. And it may be exacerbated by human beings. I've said all along that we need to lessen our footprint on this planet. We do. And I've given you examples. Go back, check out my podcast. Go to johnmartintalks.tv, YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. Go directly to my Facebook page where we've got John Martin Talks Facebook. Please like it and share it with people far and wide. We're just on the threshold of a major milestone, crossing over the 10,000 followers mark. We can make that happen today because we're that close, so I would appreciate that. But one of the things that I've said is we need to lessen the footprint on this earth. I don't have any doubt about that. And she's right, so don't just go crazy and tune in. She's right in the sense that the planet has been melting. We've been coming out of ice age for the several 100,000 years. And thank God that we are. Because if we hadn't come out of the ice age, guess what? The likelihood of us being here and having this conversation is slim and none, and Slim left the building. We wouldn't be having this debate if we were still in a dadgum ice age, because basically we almost as a species went extinct during the ice age. So if you want to say believe in science, believe in that, because it's a fact. It's not a John Martin Talks fact, Miss Ocasio-Cortez. It is simply a fact. If we had not come out of the ice age, we would be gone. That's just the way it is. And there'd be a lot more woolly mammoths probably, but the human race would probably be dead. I'm not wishing ill on the mammoths, but if I had to choose between us and them, I'm going to choose us. Just me. I guess I'm just crazy that way. But it goes on to say, championed by Ocasio-Cortez, the Green New Deal has been criticized as unrealistic and too expensive. That doesn't matter, does it? According to a conservative think tank's estimate, the plan would cost upwards of $93 million $1? Because she talks about Dr. Evil, and we talk about the cost of all like Dr. Evil, $1 million to save the planet. No, according to this think tank, it's $93 trillion, more than 4 times the national debt. Actually, the national debt, the real debt, is actually higher than that, but we could talk about that later. But hey, let me just tell you out there right now, and this is where I would agree with some snowflakes out there, but not like you might think. The cost is completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. Not to me, and probably not to most of my listeners, but to the people like AOC and the snowflakes that support her, cost is irrelevant. I've said this before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. All you have to do, if you have a liberal like county, city commission, school board like we have here where I live, unfortunately, go in, and it doesn't matter what the project, it could be a road project, it could be anything. It doesn't matter. If they're talking about something, get under citizen comment, raise your hand and ask them these questions. Ask them, who's going to pay for it and how much is it going to cost? And they will look at you like you have just come from Mars or Venus or whatever, somewhere out of space. You've been flying in Trump's Space Force or something. Because it is irrelevant. First of all, who's going to pay for it is obvious, you. And secondly, how can you possibly question the cost of it because it's so righteous? We are righteous, man. If our cause is righteous, like the Green New Deal, the cost is absolutely irrelevant. So that's why I say that if you're trying to debate her over the cost of it, you're wasting your time. Just like Bernie Sanders and all. You're wasting your time. You talk about money with these people. Because the only thing they care about money is keeping theirs and taking yours. That's it. But in the video published by the climate-oriented Sunrise Movement, Ocasio-Cortez described Green New Deal legislation as the kind of swing-for-the-fence ambition we needed. She says, finally, we entertaining solutions on the scale of the crisis we faced without leaving anyone behind. And we're going to play this video in just a snippet. But she's talking about this entertaining. Finally, they're entertaining solutions. They are entertaining. I would agree with that. This video is entertaining, much like a Friday the 13th movie is entertaining. You go, but it's entertaining. But one thing for sure, and I hate to break it to you because I know there's a genre of people that like it, but you might have more Friday the 13th movies. But if the Green New Deal comes, there will be no Chainsaw Massacre 25 because they ain't going to be able to run a chainsaw with a hamster or a gerbil. I can tell you that. So if you're into that movie, you're look, I'll just tell you like it is. Let's go ahead and play the snippet of the video, and then we'll talk some more. Here we go.
And when Democrats took back the House in 2018, and then the Senate and the White House in 2020, and launched the decade of the Green New Deal, a flurry of legislation that kicked off our social and ecological transformation to save the planet. It was the kind of swing-for-the-fence ambition we needed. Finally, we were entertaining solutions on the scale of the crises we faced without leaving anyone behind. That included Medicare for All, the most popular social program in American history. We also introduced the federal jobs guarantee, a public option including dignified living wages for work. Funnily enough, the biggest problem in those early years was a labor shortage. We were building a national smart grid, retrofitting every building in America, putting trains like this one all across the country. We needed more workers. That group of kids from my neighborhood were right in the middle of it all, especially this one girl, Ileana.
Did you check that out? She's making a pitch. She's real subtle about it, right? We need more workers, so therefore we got to have open borders. That's what the heck she's talking about. And she didn't mention, she did mention the guaranteed federal income. So you guaranteed a wage, man, but she forgot to mention that she's also in her original proposal, which they're like scaling back now or pulling back. Believe me, they still believe in it. Is those not only unable to work, but those unwilling to work. So what about them? I don't know. But man, federal jobs guarantee, the greatest in history. She's talking about all this. The ambitious video came at a time when Democrats appeared divided between more establishment Democrats and progressives like Senator Bernie Sanders, who favors large-scale government programs like single payer health care. In other words, Medicare for all. If it's Medicare for all, it's Medicare for none. But I'm wondering, I'm worried about Ocasio-Cortez because she's put this out, and we know that the president tweets, and now Ilhan Omar is under death threats and all that. I mean, of course, we know it's true because Nancy Pelosi said it, so it's got to be a fact, right? And CNN reported it, so what more? They investigated, but they don't investigate even though their website says they do. That's another story. So I'm wondering, I'm trying to help her. Which uncle should she be more afraid of? Old Uncle Bernie or Uncle Biden? I don't know. To me, the nation should be, here's where I look at, the nation should be more afraid of Uncle Bernie. And she better watch out for Biden because her hair looks like it smells pretty good. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California, we got to hear from her, right, has thrown cold water. She's thrown cold water, according to on progressive initiatives like Ocasio-Cortez and the Green New Deal, rejecting socialism in a recent interview with her CBS, and minimizing Ocasio-Cortez and her colleagues is like, they're just 5 people. Hey, it's 5 people. Yeah. Well, the Politburo, the inner Nazi circle, and the Politburo of Russia is probably only like 5 people, and they did something. I mean, somebody did something somewhere. That's her study of. I wonder if her study of World War II is the same as Ileana. Somebody did something somewhere. But hey, Ocasio-Cortez, man, her and Pelosi, I don't know. It's funny, but we're going to play a video right now where essentially Pelosi tells you what she thinks about Ocasio-Cortez and really Democrats in general. Let's play that.
However, she's a wonderful member of Congress. I think all of our colleagues will attest. But those are districts that are solidly Democratic. This glass of water would win with a D next to its name. In those
and that, I tell you what. One thing we know, she's right, by the way, that a glass of water with a D behind it could win in a lot of these places, probably like both of them chicks' districts up there. But one thing we know for sure is that glass of water would be a hell of a lot deeper than them two. I can tell you that, man, because these are some shallow gals if there ever was one. Senate Democrats snubbed Ocasio-Cortez climate proposal last month when 42 Democrats, along with self-described socialist Sanders, voted. He is a socialist. He's a communist. You don't have to, I don't care if he didn't, I give him credit for describing himself that way. At least he's telling one truth. I mean, the dude is a communist, period. End of story there. Whether you want to vote for him or not is certainly your right and up to you. But make no mistake, Bernie Sanders is an outright communist. There is no question about that. But voted to present a measure to bring the legislation to the floor for debate. 57 senators, including 53 Republicans, voted against breaking the filibuster. Well, so they put her out. They put it to the test. It was a show vote and all that. I don't disagree with that. But they voted present. Kind of, I guess they're inspired by Barack Obama, who voted present like his entire career in Illinois. But let me just reassure you, AOC, because I know you've been feeling a little bit beat up and all this kind of stuff. And that's why you made this video and everything else. And one thing about it, she's pretty active. She ain't just because a lot of people get elected and don't do nothing. This chick is doing something. You might not like what she's doing, but she's doing it. But not to worry, future AOC, because she's talking in the future. Not to worry, little future. All the 2020 jackasses have signed on to your deal already. So that ain't a fantasy. That's reality. All the 2020, of course, they adding people every day. I saw some other dude jumped in the race to do. They got Ryan guy that had the audacity to take on Nancy Pelosi. He's now jumped into the race. So, I mean, it just gets, I don't know what his position on the Green New Deal, but if he's got any shot, he'll probably sign off on it. But the jackasses on jackasses, which is basically what I call the 2020 field, they have all signed on to it, future AOC, so rest easy. Welcome to idiocy land. Because her future, if we go that route, I don't know what we'll be. We won't be the USA. I think we'll probably be idiocy land. And I got more proof of that coming up. I'm going to move on now. My next story comes to you, and it's about none other than Robert Francis, otherwise known as Beto O'Rourke. And this is coming, it's an AP story. And my little headline is Charity, you idiot. I am a gift from God. And there, you want to know a gift from God, man. And I know it's sacrilegious to say this, but I mean, if anybody could make you believe in walking on water, this dude might be able to. He can sure do a skateboard, let's put it that way. I mean, but O'Rourke says he gave more to charity than tax returns show. So, I don't care what that paper show. they want Trump's tax returns, right? So they can turn around and go, that can't be true. That can't be true that he made as much money as he possibly could and paid as little as he possibly can. Because, by the way, that is Trump's tax return, by the way. I don't care what the details are. Trump's tax return is this. Freak out. Just lean in and listen. You don't get anything outside the show. Trump's tax return is very simple. Yeah, it's complicated because he's a billionaire, but it's actually very simple. At the end of the day, you're going to find that he made as much money as he possibly could and paid as little taxes as he possibly can. So to me, that sounds genius. But if you do it, you could do the opposite, by the way, like Bernie Sanders in that video. They caught him on Fox, that town hall. So, you could pay the 52% that you want everybody else to pay. You go, what? What? He wasn't fed that question, apparently, like Donna Brazil's with Fox. Maybe she should be feeding Bernie that question. So he went like, what? Brazil, man.
Now, hold on.
You ain't doing your job. Brazil, man. Why didn't you feed Bernie the question? That is a question right there. I don't question why they even hired her, but hey, they can do what they want. Free world. But Bernie, man, he was caught off guard by that. I pay what I legally have to. So let me just sum up by saying on that part, if you want to go with the opposite of the Trump plan and pay as much taxes as you possibly can while earning as little as you possibly can, then go be it. Join the land of idiocy. That's what that would be. But back to the story. Billy Bob tells me to get back to the story. Beto O'Rourke, he was in Vicksburg, Virginia, by the way. Beto O'Rourke said on Wednesday that his family donated more to charity than reported on past tax returns because it wasn't interested in taking deductions. Remember that. He said his family wasn't interested in taking deductions. As the Democratic presidential candidate continues to face questions about his relative meager giving to such organizations, charitable. Here's a side note for you. That's why I said remember, because remember he said he wasn't, these are his words, wasn't interested in taking the deductions. Then why, Beto, Robbie, little Bobby Francis, why, if you're not interested in deductions, why is your business, your family business, which you are a part of, you are an owner of, why are they suing the very city that you were a city commissioner on, a city council member? Yeah, Beto O'Rourke and his family are suing the city of El Paso, Texas, not because they're not charging enough taxes, because they're charging too much. Yeah, they are disputing the assessed value of their properties that the city of El Paso put out, and they're saying, we need to deduct a lot more. So this guy who's telling these youngsters in Virginia that, hey, that's out of the goodness of my heart, we didn't want to actually take deductions. He's turning into he may look like Bobby Kennedy, but he's turning into the perfect communista, because what he's doing is what you got to be a leader of the communist movement. You have to be able to look in the camera and say, do what I say, not what I do. Don't pay attention. Don't look at the man over there behind the curtain. Look at me. That kind of thing. But he's suing the very city council that he helped implement these rules on. He's suing them. Google it. Check it out. Remember, it's of the devil. You could just take my word for it. You don't have to, but you should. Speaking to reporters after addressing hundreds at a crowded coffee shop. Hundreds in a coffee shop. I wonder if it was a Starbucks. Watch out for the poop and the needles. In Vicksburg, about 50 miles south of Washington, O'Rourke said, we're trying to go back to some of these, he's defending himself. He said, we're trying to go back to some of these organizations to see if they could share with us over the last 10 years how much we have donated. He wants them to go back and check their records. Don't check his own record. Go back, check the records. See if maybe we donated more than we said, man. Don't hold your breath on that one, right? They're probably, who? He gave him $1. Who? Trust me, if you give them like 10 grand, they gonna know who you are. It don't matter what organization. But if you gave them a couple of bucks or nothing, they probably go like, who? Beto. I remember that little Beto. We've made donations. This is back to his words. He says, we've made donations to so many organizations, in small amounts into hundreds of dollars, in larger amounts into thousands of dollars. Keep in mind, these guys are multimillionaires, by the way. He says this is beyond what's itemized and reflected in our taxes. So this is a Democrat who is all about Trump's tax returns. But hey, there's not all, what we've really done, it ain't in them tax returns. We've done a lot more than that. I mean, can you see the irony in this bullshit, man? The former Texas congressman added his family just didn't report it. This is the same family that's suing El Paso, by the way. Didn't report it because it wasn't important for us to take the deduction. We don't want them tax deductions. Oh, but we're going to sue. Never thought it would be an issue because I don't expect to release my taxes. I didn't expect because I didn't think I'd be running for president. I don't know that you really are, by the way. I think you're probably over already. Never thought. But they're suing. Think about it. And these Democrats, man, it reminded me of what I talked about yesterday about the different mayors suing about Sanctuary City. And we talked about California, but it came out that Bill de Blasio, the king, Comrade de Blasio, who is he's the czar of New York. I don't know about the mayor, but he's actually the czar of New York. When Trump said, well, we'll send you all the sanctuary people you want. He goes, we gonna sue. I mean, think about that. I don't want the deductions, but we're gonna sue you. I'm all for taking people, but if you actually bring illegal immigrants to my city, I'm gonna sue you. It's
By the way, when it comes to the 2020 Democratic nomination process, centrists need not apply.
And as far as I can tell, de Blasio, your prediction has come true because I hadn't seen no centrists applying. From what I can see, they like scrambling to the left. O'Rourke released a decade's worth of federal tax returns. Man, he did the right thing, didn't he? Through 2017 on Monday, showing that he and his wife, Amy, donated about 0.7% of their income to overall charity. That included just 1,166 donated on a total adjusted income of $370,412 in 2017, or about 0.3%. So this dude is charitable, man. But hey, one thing you got to understand, because it goes on to talk about that they looked at all the different people running for 2020 on the Democratic side, and that Beto actually was at the bottom of the list of donating, but none of them really stand out as being very charitable, right? They showed that at the town hall with Bernie. But here you got to really, and I'm being very serious, there's a reason why they don't donate to charity. There is an absolute reason. It doesn't mean they're not necessarily charitable. You wonder what I'm talking about. You have to understand the mindset of the progressive. They believe that government is the charity. They believe that government is the charity and that it is government's role to take your money and theirs if they're being taxed, although don't tax me to the rate I want like Bernie Sanders, but they believe that government is the charity. It's not, it's supposed to do that. So with that mindset, why would they donate to charity? Because they got big governments taking the place of charity. Charity doesn't begin at home. It begins in Washington, D.C. That's what you have to understand these people. But an Associated Press analysis, I already talked about that he was the bottom. He also noted that, I love this paragraph. Let me check I got time. He also noted that he and his wife and 3 small children have donated their time to charitable organizations, including to shelter in Ciudad Juarez across the Rio Grande, that's from El Paso, O'Rourke's native El Paso, which takes in Central American immigrants seeking asylum. On Christmas Eve, he said his family helped mobilize volunteers to aid a large group of immigrants whom U.S. immigration officials released in El Paso bus station. So, when it comes to those that are violating our laws, he's really charitable. But when it comes to helping those that are actually here in this country, not so much. So he's presidential material for sure. And this is the part I really like. He says, in addition, and I'm sure he's sincere about this, in addition, Beto said, that to the dollar amount, our time is set of charitable gift. We've donated time on the boards of nonprofits and central and public life. He also says here, and this was a question at this town hall meeting asked him on Tuesday. When an attendee at the town hall meeting asked about his family's small amount of charitable giving, the candidate suggested that running for president could count as donating his time. He literally told this kid that. So, man, I am the present. In other words, he's the gift. He is the gift. You just don't understand. Beto himself and his time is his charitable donation. He is the gift. He goes on to say, and I love this part, he says, I'm doing everything I can right now, spending time with you and not our kiddos, you snotty little brat. No, that's my words. And he said, I'm not back in El Paso because I want to sacrifice everything to make sure that we meet this moment of truth with everything that I've got. Wow, it got me to thinking about it. Maybe I've been I can be harsh sometimes. Billy Bob tells me that, People tell me that, so I thought about it, man, and wow, we are truly on this, Mueller Day. When you reflect back on it, aren't we blessed? We're truly blessed. I mean, think about what the Democratic Party is offering us. We've got Mad Bernie. In case the world does come to an end and you don't have Mad Max, we got Mad Bernie. We've got Captain Shortbread. I'm Captain Whitebread, but we've got Captain Shortbread. That dude, that Indiana governor of South Bend, Indiana, it's only like, he's probably the one going, Follow the road. I mean, that dude is small, man. I like short people. I mean, compared to my dad, I'm a short person. He was 6'6". But old Butt Get or whatever his name is, I've labeled him also Captain Shortbread. And of course, we've got Pocahontas. And keep in mind, back when Ocasio-Cortez in this Green New Deal, go back and look at the video, she said that one of the things she said that just fascinated me, made my heart rise and everything else. She said that in the future, we ran into troubles with the Green New Deal. I'm paraphrasing, but check it out. It's pretty much like this. When our scientists weren't up to the task, so we turned to native peoples for their long-lost knowledge to save the planet. So I'm wondering, is she talking about Pocahontas? Is she talking about Liawapa, Elizabeth Warren? Because if she is, she might find that old Liawapa don't know squat. Because she is, in fact, the whitest woman on the planet by her own admission, her own test. So we're blessed. Could she be talking? Maybe this is why she came up with this Green New Deal dream nightmare, because maybe she's talking to another person we're blessed with that I have now a new name. I got all new names out here, Jay. You got to keep up, man. The Queen of Ganja. I used to call her, Where's My Willie, Kamala Harris, but now we know that she's like, I was just smoking pot and listening to stuff that wasn't even out there yet. Man, I heard stuff from people that ain't even recorded anything yet, and her daddy goes, shame on you, girl. That's why I'm calling her Ganja Queen, just to name a few. And now we've got Saint Beto. We've got the gift from God, man, that his very act of being alive and in your presence is all the charity you will ever need. Think about that. Beto O'Rourke is basically saying that my entire existence, and oh, by the way, my family, who is suing you in El Paso, but we are a gift from God. Hallelujah, man. I tell you what, Mueller Day is turning out to be one hell of a great day.
Can I get a return on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you come with a receipt, Beto?
Yeah, right. Can I deduct? I shook your hand. Can I deduct you now or something from charity? Here's a charitable deduction. I bought him a cup of coffee, and it didn't even have a needle in it from Starbucks. Pricks for pricks. Go back and check out my show. You'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I got a little bit of time left. I got to cover this last story here, man. You talk about idiocy. This says, I want you on my side of the wall, by the way, and I want you here. Go to John Martin Talks Facebook page and join up my side of the wall. Sign on, like it, and share it. Push us over 10,000. You can do it. Give us a push. If you have any charitable heart within you, give us a push. Beto, man, come on, man. Go and like my page. Give us a push. Come on, do something. Be the gift that you claim to be. We need some giving here. All right, this next story comes to you from CNN, the one that don't investigate, but their webpage says they do. And my subtitle here is Idiocy Squared. We are opposed to what never was. So we're going to fight for what never happened and never will be. California community decides to drop DIXIE from school district name. Now you got to bear with me. This is one of them ones, kind of like the videos they put on Facebook where they say, watch it till the end. You got to kind of listen to this to the end to really understand it. So California Community School decides to drop DIXIE from school district. A school district on the West Coast, I like how they say West Coast, it was California, will change its name from DIXIE after a battle that has pitched neighbor against neighbor. In other words, they've had a civil war in this county over, guess what? And more will be over pure fantasy. This whole thing is a pure fantasy. You're going like, but maybe you just don't understand how the word DIXIE and the Civil War impact people. And I actually do understand, but maybe you don't understand. The Board of Trustees for the DIXIE School District voted 3-1 with one abstention. I wonder if that was Barack Obama, at a meeting on Tuesday night to change the name by August 22nd, according to Marini Glickman, one of the members. Now, really, in fairness, can you blame them? Really? Can you really blame these people? Especially when you consider, Jay. I mean, if you really consider this, Billy Bob and Jay, if you guys, I know you all are looking at the story and you're wondering I'm off, but if you considered the devastation that California had during the Civil War, the deep scars that were left there, imagine the amount of healing that changing this name, this vote will bring to the people that suffered. I mean, they have a history of the Civil War. I hate to tell you, show me the movies that were made or the books that were written about the impact of the Civil War in California. I mean, I don't think it got much past Texas, but California, apparently they suffered and they celebrated. You know, the thing about it, these sons of guns out there in California are so prejudiced and everything. They named this school district after Dixie. They whistling Dixie. I wonder if that's their fight song. You know, that kind of thing. They're trying to pay homage to them damned old Confederates, man. It might not be quite that way. But imagine the healing this vote is going to have. For now, back to the article, for now, no new name has been picked for the district, although there's been some proposed, just north of San Francisco. So just in north, I wonder if they have to smell San Francisco once you wait the prevailing winds. But I got a name for you. How about this? I'm always trying to help. JMT here, we're always trying to help, man. Why don't you change the name to idiocy? Idiocy district. You know, what will be left? Here, back to the articles. This is from one of the people that voted. What it will be left up to the people of Marin County, a bastion. Check this out: a bastion of well-to-do progressive voters. Now, I never would have guessed that. Would you? I would have thought these were like hardcore Trump supporters that were just offended by the name Dixie. And I wonder how many Confederate war statues there are there, by the way, in California. I don't know. And a far cry from the southern states embroiled in controversy, you Southerners out there, and what to do about vestiges of the Confederacy to decide what happens next. Well, apparently, and this is going right on out there to all you sons of guns south of the Mason-Dixon line, apparently California is handling their vestiges of the devastation wrought by the Civil War in California. They're handling them straightforward. I don't know what you jokers in the MAGA wearing hats are doing in your area to handle it, but these people in California, man, they are righteous, and they are getting rid of all that mean-spirited, nasty Dixie stuff. After we can't have the Confederacy out here. Hell no, we ain't never forgetting, although they forgot a lot. When passed, this is from one of the members of the council named Glickman. When passed this, I was happy for our students. The decision teaches them words matter and history matters, Glickman told CNN on Wednesday. Our community will become more diverse, which is just critical, more diverse and more resilient. People are moving the hell out of California, by the way, just so you know. Some of your diversity is hauling ass. But the district caters to about 19, doesn't that make you feel good, the way this guy stood up to the rebels, man? This district caters to about 1,900 students in 4 elementary schools. It will cost almost $40,000 to make the changes, according to Glickman. But that's irrelevant, like I already told you. Now think about this. He's saying this is going to teach the students history. And I'm a history major from the University of Florida. Yeah, man, teach the students history. Although I don't see how you teach history by destroying history. But that's just me, maybe. But hold on. We're getting to the point. It's a whole lot worse than you think. This is much, much worse than just, getting rid of the vestiges of the Civil War in California. It's a whole lot worse than that. Because it turns out that the Dixie School District how much did it have to do with the Civil War and the Confederacy and the land of Dixie, way down yonder, the land of Dixie? How much? How about less than Beto donated to charity? Zero. It has nothing to do with it. Imagine that. It is named for Mary DIXIE, a Native American woman from the Miwok tribe that lived in the area. It's named after a woman named Mary DIXIE that had nothing to do with the Civil War whatsoever. One woman said that the name brought back fond memories of warm summer nights and fireflies. You know, they celebrated because it was Native American. Perhaps this Mary DIXIE, we could resurrect her and she could help Alexandria Ocasio. Does she have a great-great-granddaughter that's looking up to Ocasio-Cortez? Now she's in shame because they tearing down the district. It's just crazy, man. Idiocy is run rampant. But many talked about the racist. Now it's named after this Indian woman in honor of her. But many talked about the racist, violent era which they saw as a blight on American history, the Civil War, that just raged all across California. Man, how many battles, reenactments have they had in the hills around San Francisco? They argued that certainly didn't want their school named in honor of the Confederacy. They don't give a damn about this Native American woman. That's the thing, the progressives, they don't care about people. They just care about political power. And so they're willing to squash naming. Think about this. They worried about naming like the Washington Redskins and stuff like that. But here's something that's named to honor a Native American. But the political play they can get from this is much greater than what they could get from this Indian woman. So she got to go. Just wipe it out, man. We got to teach our history, if true. We got to teach the if true history, not what really happened, but if true history. That's the scariest part. But the board voted down all and ended up, they had these names. So they came up with these names. They proposed some, you're going to love this. I mean, they proposed some names. Yeah, Jay, they proposed some names. I'm just going to cover the one that got voted down. The board voted down all of them, but ended up sticking with DIXIE originally. The original vote, they stuck with DIXIE. They stood by Mary
DIXIE lasts forever.
Yeah. But on that night, one resident submitted a petition proposing the name Sojourner of Truth. School district. Sojourner of Truth School District. Man, how rich is that, man? Here they are fighting a battle to let's just assume for a second it was about the Confederacy, which it's not, but here they are trying to destroy history instead of teaching it, right? And they say they're teaching it for the children. We're going to do it for the children. And then they're fighting a battle over something that never existed. It didn't happen. So the truth, their truth is true. If true, is total bullshit. Like the president said. But they're going to fight over that, and then they propose to name the school district the Sojourner of Truth. There is no truth in any of this other than the fact that they are flat out idiotic. So, whatever happened to like love trumps hate, right? Now I guess they got idiocy trumps truth. I mean, because think about it. Welcome to the way down yonder in the land of idiocy. All the stuff we used to know is long forgotten. Look away, look away, look away to the Green New Deal of AOC. I mean,
ride that jackass.
Yeah, ride that jackass ride, man. The ride of Paul Revere. The idiots are coming. The idiots are coming. They're already here, Paul. I mean, they are spread far and wide. We got think about that. One thing, I don't know about freedom and the republic and everything, if we could keep it like Ben Franklin, but one thing has spread far and wide because you got AOC talking about in the future we turn to Native Americans to save the planet, and she's from New York, right? Via Puerto Rico. She's from New York. She got several covers. All the way out to California, where their thing is to get rid of naming stuff after Indian people and Native people to save us from something that has never happened. So idiocy has, I don't know about freedom ring, but idiocy is ringing far and wide. You want to know why I battle ignorance and apathy on a daily basis? It covers it right there. AOC, idiots in California, which are probably outnumbering the sane people, although there are a few people left out there. That's why I am up against it, baby. When I got to battle the ignorance of AOC and the people that elected her and the people out there in California that are voting to change the name of something that never actually happened. I mean, wow. I got my work cut out for me. That is why I, by the way, need your support. As I've said before, but if I say it bears repeating, not everybody can, Mueller Day here, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support those willing to be in the fight. We here at JMT, Jay in the back, Billy Bob, my psychic sidekick, all of us here at Excluded, all of you guys out there like on Deplorable Resistance and Citizens for Trump, I need your support and help because I'm going to keep fighting. No, I don't need a nurse, but I do get excited from time to time because, man, I am committed to battling ignorance and apathy on a daily basis, and we're going to see a hell of a lot more ignorance coming out over the next year and a half, 2 years as they unfortunately keep pushing this Mueller report, even though the idiots won't admit that there ain't nothing there. But I hope you've enjoyed the show as much today as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. We'll cover the Barr report as much as we can tomorrow. Check it out. But between now and then, as I say always, have a blessed day.